Yo, welcome to another episode of the pod. This is Deuces Wild. It's your boy Tristan with my boy Al. What's going on, Al?
So good to be back. It's been a bit of a hiatus. Was the last time.
I know. Life has been hitting us kind of hard. And for us, I know, just to let the audience in a little bit, me and Al, we've been knowing each other for how long? Since like freshman year in high school. So that's, I think I ran out of fingers to count on.
It's been 22
20 years?
23
years?
Yeah, probably.
23 years. And this is how we catch up with each other now.
Yeah.
On a Zoom, on a pod, just talking about shit that we would talk about otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
One of the big things that happened is the Roe versus Wade. I'm not the biggest political pundit in the world. I don't particularly care for politics. But I would love to because myself, I'm an emotional creature. I go up and down. I'd love to get your ideas on it because you're more logical. You look at these things with a more measured view. Just your thoughts.
Yeah.
On the Roe versus Wade overturning.
Because a few pieces of it. This first, like my personal opinion, I think it's ridiculous. The whole notion that, you're trying to, I guess we could be technical here. This simply means that them overturning the decision is that it's no longer a constitutional right that's seen countrywide for women to get abortions. It becomes a state's issue. So it's not that women can't get abortions. It's just that it goes back to the states, and depending on where you live, they may or may not be pro-life, pro-abortion, however the correct term is. Though Joe Biden did sign his executive order, so I'm not quite sure how that kind of plays into the mix or not as of yet. But my understanding is, from a legal perspective, it was more so those who are opposed to it argue that it was just a badly constructed decision. Like it wasn't really based on any real legal principle. It was more of the Supreme Court at the time being, some would say, fast and loose with their power. And it was kind of like not the strongest sort of decision. And the real issue is that a lot of things, not necessarily about abortion itself or the right to it, but related to the right to contraception, the rights of gay marriage, all these sort of like pivotal things have happened over the years, kind of used the Roe v. Wade decision as like a basis for the argument as to why it should be legal. So people are concerned like it's a domino effect. The courts make a decision on this because they clearly are leaning more to the conservative side. Are they going to start knocking down these other like federal protections that are going to go back to the states? And if you live in a state that's conservative, what's going to happen. I'm not a doomsday predictor, so I don't know how that's going to go, but that's the first piece. But like you said, I'm not a political pundit. I'm not a legal analyst, so I'll let all the smart people go back and forth on that. What I find interesting really are two things. The first, a surprising number of younger people, like our age range, maybe in their 20s, are like arguing it from like almost like a moral perspective, saying that women shouldn't be using this as like their birth control. And I was surprised. I was expecting that kind of argument from people who were like, a bit older, a bit more few generations past. It's interesting to see like a more conservative approach from like a younger crowd. I would argue it's a little short-sighted. Like, I don't think women out there just getting abortions like, McDonald's, but whatever. Two, the more even thing that's even crazier is that some of those conspiracy theories about the Great Replacement theory that seemed kind of far-fetched, that kind of were fueling some of like what was seen as the fringes of like extreme right-leaning groups, it kind of starts making more sense because what it comes down to is, people argue they're afraid that the white population is going to get dwarfed and no longer become a majority in the coming decades. And there's a fear that, you're going to just do to us what we did to you. And there's like all this push to sort of like bolster numbers. But to me, it comes down to, even if you change all these laws, let's just go with the worst case scenario. Doesn't it come down to white women just don't want to have your baby? That's not going to change. Like, it would be more so, in my opinion, if that's a big concern of yours, figuring out, one, why don't they want to have kids with you? And then two, just find women who do. I don't know.
Well, the loss of control is what a lot of white men are citing. That it's also my child too, I guess. Therefore, I should have a right to a decision. But ultimately, this is what I thought when I heard Caveman is making a comeback, baby. They're coming back strong. And I don't even think that I think that this decision was more of it served a lot of different things. I know I've heard this theory spread across the internet that I see coming. Just as a scare tactic. And I think that in politics, they tend to use scare tactics to get voting to go one way or the other. It just seems like, to me, from the liberals' point of view, the Democrat, you're looking for votes. And I say that because you are always the side pointing to the other side saying this is happening because of them. And you're always on the losing end. How much longer are we going to use the scapegoat of it's them, not us? It's all of y'all. Those are your constituents. Those are your counterparts. Those are the people that you go golfing with. Like, you could be on different sides of the aisle. You still go golfing with that motherfucker. You just have different philosophical beliefs. You are all dropping the ball. I'm putting y'all all in the same pot. I'm not doing this scapegoat that y'all created back in the 50s and the 60s. I'd say it's been hyper-powered ever since Nixon. Ever since Nixon got caught with his pants down, the Republicans have been gung-ho on trying to get payback. And it's always been this now. It's one party against the other, one rhetoric against the other. It's like the civil rights really created a divide in our country. And although it was for the progression of women and Black folks, colored people, it created a distaste in the other side's mouth so much that it doesn't matter if it's for the better good. It's not what I believe in. So therefore, it's not real. It's not something that should be taught. It's not something that should be rhetoric that should be spewed. I don't want to hear it. It's fake news. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. It's been that ever since then. And now, we're voting. And in the beginning, I was just like Democrat, 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 because they're for the people, liberal, XYZ, progression, whatever. But then I'm seeing over and over again, you guys never have a solution to the problem. When you do, the other side's never willing to play ball with you. You know that. There's been nothing done to try to mend both sides to be able to create a bridge. You're just saying we're going to do X, Y, and Z to piss off that other side. And every time you do, there's this polarizing effect. Since Obama, not Obama's fault. Obama ran for president just as any man would or should. He spoke about change. He wanted to do that. But all you did was piss white people off so bad that they're willing to vote Trump in to be able to quote unquote, stabilize their whiteness and their power. It's a dirty game that they're willing to play that the Democrats are not playing. I don't know if it's part of the bigger plan or what, but you're always on the losing end of the stick. And I'm wondering why. Like, why are you always on this end where we have to wonder what the fuck is going on? Why would we go backwards on, what is it, like 50 years of precedent in this country?
Yeah.
It's a very long time. I don't know what the exact years are. Why is this happening? And I'm, as a voter, it's just like, where do I go? Because I don't like this shit. I don't like perpetuating the same cycle. So what do you do as a voter? It's like almost, I feel like unless you have money and power, you're not getting anywhere. Because you would have to almost create a candidate that has your ideals, fund him or fund them, or however many political figures you have, and get them in power some way, somehow, have enough backing behind that to actually create change. Voting by itself doesn't create change. You're perpetuating the same system.
Yeah.
It's the same choices.
Yeah. You're making a lot of great points. Yeah, because I guess to that last point, I mean, essentially what the decision with Citizens United allow big money to do, you essentially now corporations or large entities can fund candidates. And we know at least we're talking on like a federal or, like the non-local offices, even I would argue locally, you need money a lot of times to get into those positions of power. So because you're beholden to those who are giving you money, usually whatever sort of agenda they want you to push, you're going to push. Whether
Yep.
that be whatever team you play for. I definitely can understand how people can become like sort of apathetic to the voting process, especially when we were young. Like, all right, the importance of voting. Let's get out there. Let our voices be heard. And you can get disillusioned. You're like, well, damn. To your point, I was having that same conversation with my wife, like literally, like sometime this week. I was like, it seems like we're kind of see the same cycle play out every couple of years. It's like you just said, point the finger, blame them for the problems. Don't really sort of find a way to sort of find common ground, and just keep the cycle going. It's like, wait, why are we having these?
Like you're just throwing shit against the wall, hoping that it sticks, and it won't, because this country hasn't really changed. You're waiting for these people to die off, but they have with this Trump resurgence, they have new good old boy mentality now. Yeah. They have a new resurgence of the boomers and that ideology of make America great again, which is dumb because everything evolves. So make it great again, you're just going backwards. So you don't want evolution? You don't want to evolve?
No.
It has me upset and irritated with a lot of different views. Like the views of the Christian. And I was raised Christian. But when you start using Christianity to take away someone's rights, it's wrong. Because really, even in Christianity, someone's relationship with God is a solo thing. While you can evangelize and congregate, your spirituality and your spirituality is a solo mission. It's something that it should be private. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird. It's a bunch of people who don't want their rights infringing on other people's rights. It's very weird.
Bruh.
It's very fucking weird.
Because my wife's a lawyer, and I was like, listen, I'm not a legal person. I know I'm a dumbass to come to this stuff, but I literally said, like, so wait, you don't want the government to infringe upon your beliefs, what you think are your rights, but you want them to do it to the other person? I don't make it make sense
because
to me.
It's white power. It's white power. Y'all are not fooling me about the bullshit. It's I don't like big government until big government forces me to do things I don't want to do. Like, consider your feelings. And shame on Democrats for even getting into the game of legislating based on feelings anyway. Like, I feel like that's a big mistake. As a black man, we did not march because we felt bad about being called niggers. We marched because being called a nigger led to dogs and hoses being let on you in the street, police brutality, zoning to keep you out of prosperous neighborhoods, keeping you away from jobs. That's what we marched for. We didn't march because our feelings were hurt when you called us monkeys or coons or jigaboos. That's not why we were mad. We weren't mad because our feelings were hurt. Of course, our feelings were hurt when you shot us dead in the street, but you shouldn't have been allowed legally to just shoot us dead in the street and then not be called murder. That's what we fought for. We didn't fight because one of the reasons why we fought is because of, and I'm speaking on the backs of, with all due respect, the LGBTQ community. Now, I understand the sentiment behind your civil rights being violated. But your civil rights are not violated when someone on the internet has an ignorant view of you. It's not. When Dave Chappelle comes out with a special, your civil rights aren't violated. Your civil rights aren't violated when someone uses the wrong pronoun. But these are issues that are so important to you, and they become important to the liberal and democratic movement. And now these are more important than actual laws, like the right to the access to reproductive rights. You dropped the ball. You were more obsessed or interested in making sure people felt good about being them, whoever they are, instead of actually having real concrete rights. And that's, to me, the struggle of a black man realizing in this country beyond, or just realizing what I'm seeing on the internet. we're policing what people are saying about each other. We're more worried about that. Oh, you can't say that. You can't say this. That's wrong. But you're not worried about somebody actually taking your rights away or shooting you dead in the street. Like, that's what we're upset about as a Black people. You're not getting that as a transgender. The police aren't shooting you and killing you in the street. The government isn't acting against you. It's other bad actors in this country, which there will always be. There will always be people who are hateful. There will always be people who will try to harm you. There will always be people who will disagree or dislike you just because of the way you think.
True.
There's nothing we can govern. We can't govern that. But we can govern how our government acts as far as laws, what's legal and what isn't, and what's discrimination and what isn't. I'm sorry, not saying them and their for your proper pronouns is not it. And you could be mad at me for that, but it's not oppressing you. That's not oppression. Oppression is taking money out of your pocket, keeping you in a poverty state. When you have a legal action or when you're trying to get fair legal justice, it's turned against you as soon as they see the color of your skin. That's what we were fighting for.
Yeah, man, you're on fire there. I'm just not cutting you off. I'm just like okay. So, because I think one of the things you said at first was you were saying that you don't like how the powers that be play with people's feelings and get them to sort of focus on what you could argue really isn't important legislation or important issues. Yeah, and you're right. I agree. The civil rights movement wasn't about feelings; it was about rights. And, the current, you could argue still existing legal structure was you were building in what I would call systematic racism, which people, argue that's not a thing, but you can clearly point to legislation and laws that, yeah, you did that solely to essentially limit or oppress certain groups. That's not arguable. I don't know, man. I really can't. I think you said it all, frankly.
If anybody wants to argue what I'm saying, I point people to a great documentary on HBO called "Destroy All the Brutes."
Never heard of that one.
I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
It was made by this Haitian filmmaker. Got his name, okay. So don't quote me on that part. But he basically broke it down how ever since the European has discovered Africa, he's been trying to separate himself from the brute or the African, not even African American. This is before that.
Right.
The African.
Yeah, that was definitely
Americans did that shit when they came over here and sold land and didn't belong to them.
Yeah.
Where's the Native American today? And it shows you what they wanted to do to Black folks, but they, civil rights, we prospered, baby. History is history.
I mean, yeah, when you start digging into the history of the country and racial dynamics and different things, it really illuminates one, there were some very evil people walking around, and two, yeah, I feel like you need to understand how things are currently. You have to understand how they begin, how through history things have changed. Yeah, I'm gonna check the documentary out though.
And what I will say is, for those in the LGBTQ community, you've been hated too.
Yep, that is true.
I'm not gonna. But there have been white people amongst your ranks, so you kind of, indirectly or maybe directly, you're sheltered because there are plenty of white men who are really cross-dressers in their private life. There are plenty of white men in power. I'm talking about power that like little boys or like men and have these different sexual proclivities. Is that the right word?
Yeah, but I to be fair, I will say pedophilia and LGBTQ plus stuff are
it's not the same thing. Yeah. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there are different ideas about sex within power.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? There are different sexualities within power. It's not just one or the other, although they will try to link your your sexuality. They'll say it's a deviancy and try to link it to colored people. They will. They'll say it's less than and try to link it to the colored people. They will.
Fair.
But it's not. It's just a different wiring of the way the brain works. And we're learning more. We're understanding more. But come on, man. I got to go back to we can't legislate based off feelings. Like I get someone shouldn't make you feel shitty. Morally, it's wrong. Legally, it's not.
Well, let me ask you this about that. Because I agree, but then I'm wondering, but one of the tactics of the civil rights activists were to play on the guilt of the major populace. Like showing the brutality that we're facing are going to spur those who either don't know it exists or don't think it's real to be like, oh, well, that's pretty terrible. We did use their guilt to have them do the right thing.
Feel guilty. Someone who looks like you did this.
Yeah.
There's such a negative around guilt. Like sometimes you got to eat shit.
No,
you shouldn't be blamed for the sins of your father, but you should be aware of them because that's how you grow.
Yeah.
That's how you evolve. You don't evolve. You could just say, oh, that was yesterday. We don't do that no more. When you do it. You do it. But then, like, you can't ever just say it never happened.
True.
Tulsa. You can't just move away from it. Like when I do some shit wrong, like if I cheat on my girlfriend, I'll never forgive. I can't never forget it because if I forget it, then I haven't learned anything.
I mean, only if you care, though.
If you don't care,
if you do things that are to hurt others, but you really don't care, or you found a way to justify it, some would argue religion, whatever it is, upbringing, then you're not doing the wrong thing. You're doing totally within your right to control.
You know what? If we were honest in our schools from the get-go, we were honest in our schools about the history of this country, you get more people that care.
I agree.
But because you keep lying to them, you want your own curriculum that gives your own facts, you create people who won't care because they'll just wave their hand and say it's not real.
Yeah. That's
just the plight of the nigger or the LGBTQ community.
Yep.
You just say it's that. It's an agenda. It's not real. And you'll keep it moving. So that's why making sure that you teach about oppression in schools, it makes sure you create better human beings.
Or even if, because I agree, but even if like, they go, well, I don't want to look at it that way. Look at it as the more exposure that someone gets to like different ways of life or different sort of thoughts, ideals, the more you grow. Because you're then challenging these different notions you may already have. And it's forcing you to like, evolve as a person. And I agree with you, you probably experienced this when you are either when you encounter people who maybe have never met a black person. Like maybe they've seen them on internet or they've, watched TV or sports, whatever it is, but they were never really interacted with them. A lot of times there's like a weird filling out process because they really have no basis or any sort of direct experience. Some of their ideals may come from what they think is good information. As they can learn like, oh man, no, I know Tristan, and not that he represents everybody, but that's a very different representation of what I may have thought black people were. And the same with like LGBTQ and whites, whoever you're talking about. When you get more exposure to people, you get more experience, you get to learn more about them and, I think evolve your perspective.
For sure. But, I remember working at a particular company that was very, it had its LGBTQ population was very prominent there. And I've never dealt with that from that standpoint. This is in my 20s, so this is just an education for me. And just learning different perspective of how they see heterosexuality and men and how they feel like it's been a kind of a pushing on them of those two characteristics, heterosexuality and men. And even from a women's point of view of how they're not comfortable when you allow them to go first into a doorway all the time. Because they have women walk around, a lot of women, I wouldn't say all of them, a lot of women walk around with the fear of being raped. It's not a fear men have. It's not something that I ever even thought of.
No.
Especially as a person who wants to do well. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
when you let somebody get in the elevator first, there's a fear there that this person might be behind me doing whatever. Like all that thing that I think is chivalry, it's nice. And it's actually, I can't, and women will say, I can't open the door for myself. I can open the door for myself. I don't need you to open the door for me. I don't need you to say good morning to me, because they feel like when men talk to them, it's only to get what's in between their legs a lot of the times.
Well, that's a little arrogant, that one, but okay. I hear you.
I mean, but
a little
I
bit.
mean, it's not just from the standpoint of you think I look good. You don't even necessarily think I look great. You just want vagina, like you're pussy hungry. And I see a lot of niggas are pussy hungry.
Yeah, but okay.
But we just talk about.
I gotta push back a little
beards.
bit of it. I gotta push back a little bit. Okay. I can understand that perspective. But the notion that you're just so irresistible that
it's not that. It's not even about sex. It's not about them being attractive.
Well, maybe you start hanging around trash niggas. Because
there's a lot of trash niggas, Alex.
I don't know there are.
I would say there's a good five out of 10 dudes is a trash ass nigga.
No.
I'd say a good half of us.
I'll give you 30% of trash.
Nah.
Trash?
Half.
No.
Half.
No.
Why don't you have so many male friends, Alex?
Well,
yeah, because a lot of them are trash.
No,
and you see it.
That's not it. I mean, to be quite honest, there's a book written by a guy who's a little conservative. I don't necessarily agree with his ideals, but about one of the issues that modern men are facing is that I think the book's called Band of Brothers. Is that once a man, like, usually, historically, you'd bond up with guys because you guys be doing things together. Whether it's protecting your community, whether it's, some kind of common activity, whether it unfortunately beats war, there's that camaraderie. But, in modern society, you go off to school, you start working, and you get a family, and that becomes your focus. And like some of your activities and hobbies you would have done to bond with guys, it more and more is becoming scarce. So men find themselves focusing on like taking care of the family, trying to be a provider, trying to support them, that he kind of puts his camaraderie and friendships on the back burner. And I know I've done that, frankly. So
I mean, even when you get involved in business, you try to start your own business, and you become very loner. I become a loner.
Yeah,
by default. That kind of happened to me. I don't have. I started you guys that grew up in high school. I probably got a couple male friends or acquaintances, I should say, actually, that I've picked up over the years. But for the most part, I've mostly have a lot of ex-female friends and
ex-female friends, huh?
And his family. I spent a lot of time with my family,
which is not bad. It's not a bad thing.
It actually, I don't like, and you know what? I'll say this for me. I've met a lot of different dudes, and I didn't like the way they move. I just didn't like it. I don't agree with me. I don't agree with a lot of mainstream things. I don't like groups and organizations and cliques. So that would have that keeps me out of that. I'm very I believe in individuality.
Wait,
a whole lot.
When you say you don't you mean like you don't like the sort of dynamic where it's groupthink, where we're all together, we all have to have like this. Okay.
I don't like that.
I get what you're saying. All right, I know what you mean.
I don't like that.
I've been in those situations. This is how we do things. Like, well, no, this is what I'm going to do. It may coincide with you, but I'm not.
It's always been me. And when you do that, it does, like with the group or whoever might see a liking to you. But then when you say shit like that, they'll be like, "Oh, we can't.
No, I've had
experience nothing with this one."
Like, this is how because they would be like, I would say the person, I guess, in groups, there's always becomes like a de facto leader. Or usually, they would be speaking like for everybody. I'm like, wait, why is he speaking for all these grown ass men? I was like, wait a minute. I was like, okay, it's cool. But like, what do you think? Well, I'm like, what, nigga, what do you think? Like, you can speak for yourself. Anyway, yeah, I know what you mean.
I asked him a question, or some men asked him a question. Well, how do you feel about this? What a hoes love. I'm like, I didn't ask you what the hoes love. I asked you what you like. I asked you what your interests are.
Hey, man, in fairness, we do a lot of things for women.
And then there's that, and there's a lot of fucking liars, like for no reason liars. Like, because, and I'll say it more for men, because of the toxic masculinity thing. Like, I've got to seem like my dick is bigger than it really is type thing. So I'm gonna lie about my life. I don't subscribe to that either.
If your life is trash, you're gonna lie for most people. Especially now, it's so easy to lie. If my life
But,
is trash,
so many people's lives are trash. So trash is relative. What's really trash? I mean, you could just be living a quiet life and think it's trash. I'm like,
but you've said it before.
That sounds like low self-esteem.
I would argue you're right. I'd agree with you. I think you said it before. I forget how, like, the context, but you were like, a lot of people find themselves comparing their entire life to people's highlight reels. So you think, oh man, these people seem to be doing like amazing. What the fuck am I doing? So you feel like, I guess you feel the need to like just lie.
stay off Instagram and stay off LinkedIn. LinkedIn will have you low key. LinkedIn will have you feeling shitty about your career. You see everybody doing a whole bunch of shit. And LinkedIn's supposed to be a positive place. It's supposed to be about socializing, mingling, networking. There's a lot of Instagram shit happening on LinkedIn. Look at me on my new job, man.
Yeah.
Oh, we gonna talk about them last quarter's numbers though. Was that your fault?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Are you putting your low lights on LinkedIn too? I bet you aren't.
Nah. I mean, some people are like more transparent. I don't really share that much on LinkedIn, but I know what you mean. Like, it'll be like, oh, hey, this person you worked with 5 years ago, they're now the vice president or the director. I'm like, well, shit, okay.
Damn.
I'm like, okay, all right, but no.
God damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I doing?
I know what you mean. But just focus on yourself, man. I would just focus on what your goals are. Like,
exactly.
I mean, I found myself getting like low key a little jealous of this dude I used to work with a long time ago. But dude was super fucking smart. Like, black dude who opened up a Chick-fil-A here in the city. I was like, well, shit, I ain't doing shit with my life. And I was like,
you know how easy it is to open up a Chick-fil-A? You just gotta have the bread. All you gotta have is the money to put it up.
I don't say easy. They're very selective for the franchise.
Okay. It's not easy, but all I'm saying is it just means he was there for the opportunity.
Oh no, this brother.
That's the thing that we do.
This dude was top notch. Like, I'm not even gonna ahead. This is a smart ass dude. Like, smart, sharp cat.
But
like,
you don't have to be that smart to open up a Chick-fil-A. You really don't. You don't. You just gotta have the bread and be able to create some type of infrastructure. Really, they're going to give you the recipe. It's their shit. They're not going to let you just do whatever you want with the Chick-fil-A.
Well, I appreciate the positive words. I guess more so was like, ask myself, okay, but is that what you really want to do? Then why are you going like, well, why come you aren't doing that, Alex? I'm
going to tell you this right now, Al. It's a distraction. It's a distraction to look to the left or right. When you run in a 100-meter relay, you don't look to your left or your right. You just keep running as hard as you can.
If you do, you probably gonna lose. You're gonna lose your race. Yeah, that's right.
You run your race, and that's what. Because we're gonna end up in different places, all of us.
That's true.
And when it's our time to go, you go by yourself. So you got to make sure you got the type of memories that when it's your time to go, you be like, I'm cool with everything I did, baby.
All right,
that's your life.
All right, Tristan, this he leading the way today. Okay, I'm gonna switch. This isn't a good switch of gears, but since you were kind of talking about like, rights and LGBTQ, what do you think about Macy Gray getting in hot water for her comments?
Okay, it's another big thing. Again, we're back on the feelings journey again. It's a couple of things I got. Your feelings aren't my responsibility and human nature. So Macy Gray says that. And there was actually a transgender woman who commented about the Macy Gray situation. And she said that there are transgender men, there are transgender women, and then there are natural-born men and natural-born women. And you do not get the two confused. And making the two, trying to blur the lines between the two is bullshit. This came from a transgender woman, and it's just logic. But it goes back to what we were trying to do. And you see, it's not just the conservatives doing this. It's Democrats and liberals and people with that mindset are also doing it too. It's whatever I believe or whatever I think. And you have to respect that. I don't. I have to respect you and your space and your rights and you as a human being, your merit, your actual merit, what you are capable of, what you do, your actions. If you have some idea of the sky being red, no. I see a blue sky every time I look up. Sorry, you're not going to tell me the sky's red. You're not going to tell me that a transgender woman is a woman. because she feels that she's a woman. It's not how that works.
Mm.
It's not how that works.
So
it's called science.
So you're saying I will respect your rights. I won't go on my way to like impede your life, but you can't ask me socially to sort of accept the ideal you're trying to push.
Yes.
I think that's fair. You can't make people socially feel anything. If they do, cool.
And
if they don't,
people want to liken it to the civil rights. I'm not mad that white man thinks I'm a nigger. Matter of fact, I'm glad he said it so I know I'll never associate myself with him. It actually empowers me to know how you feel and think instead of you hiding behind this society where you can't say the N-word. So you could think it and then nobody will know. No, fuck it, say that shit. Come on.
But
come on, right? It's the thing, like, I don't care about people saying nigga. I don't. It's when you treat me like one. When you go out of your way to treat me like one. When you when you shoot me down the street, when you pull me over and you know I ain't the one, just because I'm black and I'm in a white neighborhood, when you start treating me like I don't belong, even though my people built this country like yours, that's the problem and issue. It's not because my feelings are hurt.
No, your people.
We're way past that. So, Black folks are way past that. Emmett Till, we way past that.
Well,
we way past that.
Well,
no, I'm not saying. I'm talking about the emotional part. Like we are now.
Actually,
a lot of us are shrugging our shoulders, saying this happens every day. Sorry, I'll go ahead.
No, I mean to cut you off, bro. There's a recent story that they found the arrest warrant for the woman who falsely accused, who essentially set it up, the woman who claimed he harassed her, which led to him being murdered. They actually found the warrant that was never served, and the activists in that area were actually looking for this woman, and they're having the local law enforcement to push hey, no, you need to arrest her. They've been going to all locations. They're trying to actually get this woman arrested. So I would say, I feel what you're saying, but black people nah, you coming to justice for this one. That's like people who did the Nazi security guard who got the 5 years recently, just like, granted, different types of crimes. Your R. Kelly's, your Giselle Maxwell's. You did that shit, it's time to pay.
Yeah.
But just random side note. Sorry, keep going.
It's fine. I just want logic to prevail. Logic is what we should be basing our society on. The rules and the laws that we make.
I think when it comes to the whole what's a woman, what's a man, I feel like the reason logic can't be applied is because it becomes a very hard argument to make if you are more so on the more liberal thinking side. By that I mean, you go, okay, it would start from a logical standpoint of do you think gender and sex are one and the same, or are they completely separate? So
completely,
you can't argue if we're going to say from a biological standpoint, female, male that's a thing. No matter what you do, that is what it is. That's one thing. Okay. So you're all right, they're separate. So I can be a female, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm a woman. Okay. And then you're kind of getting into this, there really isn't a logical, then it becomes more of a how you feel, your opinion, because if there's no common definition, if you're saying that they're separate, then you could argue there's no common definition of what a man or woman is, if it's simply a social construct. And then it kind of gets into this, you have to sort of convince people of your point of view, because there's really no consensus. I would argue the consensus is there may not be there may not be 100% linkage, but there's definitely things that influence male and female influence what is considered man and woman. I think that's a thing. I think there's some parts of that you just can't unlink. If you
there's gender identity, and then there's sexuality.
Well,
sexuality is what you like. Gender identity is what you feel like, and gender is what you actually are.
Well, okay, so then gender, you're saying is so you're saying gender and biology are linked in that case.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing, scientifically speaking. There are situations in which someone will have two X chromosomes, but actually be a male. There's a XXY. There's a XX. There's a lot of different situations. I'm not a scientist, but there's a lot of different scientific ways in which that won't be as clear as you want it to be, right? That's when we start leaning on, okay, what do you feel like? What's more, there has to be more nuanced conversation. It's never going to be black and white. And I feel like we're getting a lot of black and white out here. It just is what it is. It's a nuanced conversation. And it's a different conversation for you under those circumstances. And understandably so. But with them circumstances being different for you and, you have a different identity than X, Y, and Z, it's upon us to respect it, but it's on you to understand and be self-aware that it is a different set of circumstances for you. It doesn't make you awful. It doesn't make you less than, but it does make you different. And no one wants to be different. They want to be and feel with whatever else or the group that they feel with. So I don't like groups. Like if we're all more confident and secure in our differences, we'd be better off as the people. But we've been ridiculed for our differences for so long that we try not to be different.
But I guess you
want to fit right in with everything else.
I guess the challenge becomes, well, not the challenge. The question becomes, if you're pushing so hard to be recognized, in this case, from the Macy Gray comments, if transgender women are saying, not all, but they're saying like, no, there shouldn't be any sort of distinction. I am a woman. Like, I want everyone to see and interact with me appropriately. I think that's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that until you get into interpersonal relationships. Because I would argue, if you're talking about dating, you can't then tell potential partners, hey, you have to be okay with this, and you can't, like, this can't be something to bother. You can't say, oh, I only want to date naturally born women. That's not fair to me. I'm like, well, you don't get to dictate what what potential partners want from their partner. You can't dictate that. That's like me being under 6 feet going like, well, no, women, you got like, I'm 5'10". You got like that. That's what it is. No, I don't care if you like tall. No, I'm 5'10". You got like what I like. You got like what I am. I can't dictate that. Some women will like it. Some women won't like it. My wife likes it.
It's the same thing with the body shaming thing. Like,
yeah,
you have to like me or take me for as I am. It's like, I get it.
Somebody will.
I get it, but I don't.
Somebody
will.
But you can't tell everybody, hey, nope, you gotta like it. Like that, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So, anyway. But I feel like that topic can go on forever.
It sure can. And I'm not at some point it just has to.
It's gonna take time.
Like you said, it's the time to have a conversation no one is having. And if one side could we can't talk to each other. We can't have this conversation that we just had. Well, we think similarly.
Right.
But when you start bringing in people who don't think the same, it's offense again.
Yeah.
The feeling shit. Like,
true.
We can't have a conversation without you getting your feelings and acting as though I hate you because I think this way. And I think that's problematic in our culture.
Yeah.
That just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that they hate you.
Right. Yep, I agree. I think definitely social media has made that tougher for people to have those kind of conversations without immediately going to like fire and brimstone. It can't be, hey, we have a difference of opinion. Okay. It's, I'm so used to yelling at you through like a screen. When I see you in person, I think I can do the same thing. I'm like, well, no, you can't do that. But anyway.
The internet is a gift and a curse. It's given as much as it's destroyed.
The last thing I'll say is, when it comes to transgender thing, it's just going to take time. Like, it's complex. There's a whole lot of gray areas where there is no clear answer, and it's relatively new to the majority of people. So just like it took people time to get more comfortable and get a better understanding of the LG part and B of the community, it's gonna take time for the T, because the T's, you can argue, is even more complex because there isn't like just one. There's so much variation and variety. Just give it time. In 50 years, probably won't care anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway. So what else? What else we got on that docket there? I don't know if I want to cover that. That's something light. So, is Elon Musk the white Nick Cannon, or is Nick Cannon the black Elon Musk?
Okay, what's the correlation here?
So
how is this?
Both of them have a gaggle of kids, just a gang of them. Nick's got 8, Elon's got 9. They both got all these baby mamas. So and they were actually bonding over this on social media because they were joking around. They're doing their part to fight population sort of decrease, which kind of goes to an extent to the whole Great Replacement theory. The argument is this book, The Birth Dearth. I started reading it. I'm like a third of the way
Are
through.
we checking the numbers when we say shit like this?
According to the writer who wrote this book, he studied these kind of phenomenon for decades. He wrote this book like '87. He was seeing that the trends in Europe, Japan, and America to a slower extent, you were seeing that people were having less and less kids. And in Japan, that is an issue now where, if I understand correctly, there are not enough young people within the sort of economy to take care of the elderly, those who are aging out. So the argument was people having less kids, and in order to keep the economy going, keep society going, and this is where I kind of get like, what do you mean by that? And the third world doesn't take over population-wise, coded language, people need to have more kids. And
are we checking the fact that we got a real bad global warming issue? We're really bad on resources. Resources are really thin.
So
how the fuck are we losing population?
So remember,
as a whole,
the argument is that it's not the whole population is going down. It's what you could argue are the countries leading the world. Like it's certain demographics where their countries are population-wise going down. And that was a concern of the writer. Really, people read between the lines. It's kind of like, we don't want the others to take over. That's kind of ties to the whole Great Replacement thing, where it's like, it wasn't...
So where does Nick Cannon fall in all this? It's very weird.
So the argument is, they were kind of joking, the argument is that people essentially need to have more kids in America and Europe and Asia, or Japan. That's like the argument. And the joke is, oh, well, Nick Cannon's got 8, Elon's got 9. They're doing their part. I think the guy was saying, in order to stabilize it, I think women will need to have, 3 to 4 kids on average to sort of keep the number stable. So it's one of those things where that's kind of what people like. That's kind of what they were talking about population.
Just make it so that the women have to have the babies to have.
And that's people arguing, taking away Roe v. Wade.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't know. That's just silly.
Still, but even I don't know. There's no guarantee she's gonna have your kid, bro. She might just not want your seed. It might just be that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, you still gonna be mad on these streets.
I don't think the population control thing is enough of an issue. I think that you need to get on top of this global warming situation that's going to happen. And fucking weather is crazy.
That's not my problem. That's their problem down the road.
That's so fucking stupid. We were saying that shit in the 90s, and I was just looking around like, what's all this global warming shit they talking about? And now the sky's falling down. And now you're still going to keep saying it's later on down the road. No, I think down the road is now.
I mean, we go to space.
You about to lose Miami, bro. You about to lose Miami. Miami got buildings just falling down. Because they can't take it anymore.
I mean, well, they got boats. Water World. I don't know.
Water World. Hey, look, man. I just make sure I'm long gone because y'all not gonna listen to me. Y'all not gonna change anything. Just make sure I'm long gone before this shit happens.
Listen, man. You just do your part, Tristan. You have your 3.4 kids. Keep it going.
I'm having 2. I'm a little late in life.
But no,
I haven't even had 1 yet. I'm having 2.
Well, no, because
I'm not.
You're still in your prime.
I'm not. Look, my daughter or son, the first one, if I have him today, it's 21. I'm gonna give away my age. It's 21. I'll be in my late 50s.
Yeah, what's wrong with
that? When the second child, however, that child is, I don't know how old they'll be,
bro.
But 21 in my late 50s means my likelihood of growing up with my grandkid or having my grandkids grow up with me is less because I want to live past 72, which is the cutoff, right, for black men. I want to live past that. It's no guarantee. My mother didn't make it until 63, and it's there's only so much you could do to control that. So I kind of want to be able to have my kids and grandkids and be able to see them.
Well, take care of yourself. Yeah, you can't control like health stuff because who knows? Health stuff.
Who knows what's gonna happen?
Well, get started, man. No, I'm teasing, but
I'm trying, man. As hard as I can every night.
Your girl gonna say, "Hey, shut your ass up. We ain't having no guy. I'm not ready for that." But no,
wasn't there that last night. No.
No.
What's up with your boy Vince McMahon?
Man, at this point, I'm like, when these sex scandal stories come out, not that I'm saying every person in power is a maniac who's just out there just doing wild stuff, but this is another person from years past who got caught up in the power and crossed some lines and had to pay the cost, and it's finally coming out.
Another thing that I'm ready to do today. I know that we shouldn't victim blame it. Victim blaming is.
Oh shit.
I just wonder what's going through your mind when a man starts some creep shit with you and you work for him or with him.
I don't know.
Why do you let it go at all? At all. When you know you can get a bag for it.
Well,
at this point in time, and during this climate, this ain't the 80s. This is not the 90s where power can just swallow you up and spit you out.
Mm-hmm.
Power is being, well, I guess you could argue with the Supreme Court, like power is as strong as it's ever been. White power is as strong as it's ever been. But we are shedding light on things more now every day. You got Dallas Maverick executives getting in trouble for sexual harassment and sexual assault. And not sexual assault, but sexual harassment in the workplace. You got the Washington Command Skins getting in trouble.
Already?
Oh, you didn't hear about what Bruce Allen was doing?
No.
They had like cheerleaders. They were treating like sex trafficking cheerleaders. It was weird.
Shit.
Like,
I didn't hear about
they was on some bullshit in Washington.
Well,
Snyder
this was
just running wild.
This is when the Redskins, when they became the Commanders or Commandos, whatever they call them.
This is when, when they were the Skins. I won't say the whole name. But when they were the Skins, they were doing a lot of dirty shit. And that's why what's his face got fired. Coach for the Raiders, John Gruden, got fired because he was really close friends with Bruce Allen, and they were, John Gruden was saying shit about niggas, and that's the reason why he got fired. He was being racist, but they were also sending pictures of like topless cheerleaders.
Right, I remember the story now. Yeah, you're right.
Like they were going crazy. So they had to rectify that situation. So, and the Blackhawks had a sexual scandal where a young player was being abused by the trainer. So you got these different organizations acting like this. Everybody is a culture of change or trying to change the workplace. I just wouldn't allow it. But I don't want to make say or it was her fault or whatever. I just wonder what was going in your mind when Vince McMahon touches your breast or touches you or tries to have a relationship with you. You keep letting it go, and then it gets too far. I just want to know, like, why would you get involved with somebody who is already violating you by talking to you at all?
That's
violating his marriage, violating you principally because it's a work environment, and now it automatically turns your career into complicated because he's doing this with you. He has taken a liking to you.
So
why you're not pissed by that and just going ham?
So, I mean, because there's a complex part here where it's not uncommon for people who work together to like date and hook up. It's also not uncommon for people in positions of power to date those normally women sometimes, but mostly dudes to date the women who work for them. That's not uncommon, and it's also not uncommon, though people don't like to talk about it, that there is sort of a dynamic that both parties like. Because there's a power dynamic there. There is a direct benefit of being with the person who calls the shots. So that, I think it's not this whole black and white thing, because it's not. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the woman is clearly setting boundaries, like, hey, it's not that kind of party, and the person just doesn't want to listen, and they go for it. They think they can do what they want to do, and they got to pay. So it is what it is. Other times the shit gets complicated.
I feel like that last scenario you gave, where she actually kind of likes this, I don't think that happens very often. Wait. And if it does happen, then why does this person? I don't think that person should then. Oh, I don't like it now because of whatever reason.
Well, it depends, because it may not always start out as this weird thing where he is using the power in a very, from her perspective, in a inappropriate way. it may get his ego starts getting out, like getting bigger and bigger, and then he starts showing more sides of his personality, like saying and doing things where she's like, "Hey,
But that was also always possible with the leverage he had in the relationship, with him being the one in power. You agreed to this kind of,
but not
you can't then say, "Oh, I don't like how this is
not necessarily
how this is going down now."
Not necessarily, because let's say a person gets to somebody who has way more power than them or resources. That doesn't necessarily mean you're saying you're okay with them using that like in a controlling or negative way against you. I wouldn't say that.
I just feel like it's always a potential for that. And I would never want that
You're right.
situation.
You're right. But people get complicated, man, and people usually buck those who are in proximity to them. It's easy access. I mean, yeah. So anyway,
I just feel like it's dirty. It's dirty ball in the sense that you basically are shitting where you eat at.
Hey man,
this is how I make my money. I don't want flirty shit around here. It's distracting. A, you know what I'm saying? I have work to do. And B, when some shit goes down, I don't want that shit at my workplace.
Hey bro, you're not wrong, but we've both seen it. I wouldn't say recently, but when I was like before I got married, yeah. There were definitely times when people try to kick off like workplace things. I'm like, nah, I'm cool. I'm all right.
I've had workplace things. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, it normally doesn't end well. You either get married or you leave. It normally happens. It's one of the two.
And you can't leave if you work with the motherfucker every day. People, guess what, bitch? I'm here.
I mean, like leave in terms of the person somebody quits.
What I'm saying is you can't. Well, yeah, you're right. Like, it seems like leave the relationship. You can't leave the relationship until you quit.
That's what I was like. Yeah, I was saying like, oh, we started dating when it was against the rules, but we got married. We're happy. Or man, fuck that person. I'm out of here. Like, I've never seen like, yeah, we used to date. We don't anymore. Let's go to this meeting. Never seen it happen that way. It's either epic win or epic failure. But anyway,
it's not worth it. Not worth it to me.
Top Gun. I know we're late. Oh, come on, man. You gave me shit for not seeing it last time. I went to go see it.
Because you told me you was going to go see it. Man, was it good?
It was okay. Because I know how you get. It was a really good movie.
Okay.
It was better than the first movie.
Okay.
Like, now I know you don't go in there expecting Daniel Day-Lewis performances. But it's a fun time. I think they did a really good job with the action scenes. It kind of gives you like a very nostalgic, like late 80s, early 90s kind of vibe in terms of like the story, but it doesn't feel dated. It's just a fun time.
Are you going to allow your kids to now join the Air Force? Become air fighter pilots? I've heard that it was very, it was kind of like a military
propaganda,
a bit. Propaganda.
I feel like every military movie that doesn't have like a very serious tone to it, you could argue that like it makes it look cool and fun. If my sons want to join the military, I would support that.
I mean, I would support it too. I would just tell them to be careful.
Yeah, I mean,
be very careful. Like, I want my kids to come back safe.
Yeah, let me rephrase. It depends on what's going on. Like, obviously, if they're grown men, I can't make them do anything. But if there's war going on, of course, as a father, I'm not going to want them potentially be in harm's way. But the military, for the people I know, for almost all except one person I know, it was a very positive experience for them overall. One person, he was
people I've known have been in the military are elders in my family. So
yeah,
it's a different time.
Yeah,
but that particular war that they went off to, they did not enjoy it. It was not very good, and it left a bad taste in a lot of older Black veterans' mouth, the way they were treated when they came back home.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't go over very well. They weren't treated well as ex-soldiers, and it's the ugly side of it that I wouldn't want my children to fight for this country because of that reason. Fight for a country that when you come back to, they don't treat you like a soldier because you're not the right color.
Right.
And society will forget about you. If you're disabled, you come back. because you're not the right color.
That's true.
So what are you really fighting for? Who are you fighting for? You fighting for the rest of the brown people here? It's like 12%, or black people, I should say, but that's like 12%, which I don't understand is great replacement because if you look at the numbers, they all the same.
Well, it's not really
percentage-wise.
It's anybody non-white. So population is primarily being driven, new births, at least from what the numbers they were showing, it's mainly being driven by Hispanics. You know, they didn't really go.
Black people are taking over though.
Black people, our population has been pretty stable overall. Kind of shifts 1 or 2 points either direction. Just we've been in this, like pretty much anywhere outside of Africa, the population of black people is usually pretty stable. Well, in terms of like the percentage of the population. The only thing I will say about the military is that those who talked about it, 'cause I've got family and friends who, who are either active or, retired, say that it kind of gives a vibe of what the country could be if they kind of live by the ideas. Not that it's perfect in terms of, like, to your point, like they kind of get a different treatment because in the military, though they got their own issues and there is some racism and things, like merit wins out. Like if you're like, it's merit based. So they kind of get fairer treatment or fair treatment. That can be a bit of a culture shock, at least historically. When they come back home, it's like, wait a minute, I was side by side with people of all kinds, and we were cool. We had our issues, but we were cool. We were overall get along. I come back here, I'm treated like shit. But overall, it is what it is. Whew.
Is it okay? I don't feel okay. So July 4th just went down.
Yep.
Right. We had July 4th and we had June 19th. I think since we recorded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this country. You say what the ideals are. You think about ideally what this country was supposed to be. This country ideally wasn't for all of us. We kind of made it up as we went along.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the military, the idea of this country, I can't get out of my head just what happened with the Native American Wars, i.e. the Indian Wars. And why I can't, because the motherfuckers named all their weaponry after the Native American Wars, Apache, Sequoia, Iroquois. Like, it's a reminder, and you called Osama bin Laden Geronimo. It's just this culture of shitting on a Native American that, to me, this country was built off of. Not just the Native American, but the African American. Not just the African American, but anyone with any pinch of African blood in them, Haitian, Dominican, Puerto Rican, you tried to wipe them out. You tried to wipe them out. And I don't forget that. And I'll never forget that. And it's troubling to me every time I hear a national anthem. You got people saying you should stand for the flag or X, Y, and Z. First of all, why are we playing the national anthem before sporting events? Do they do that shit before we watch a movie? Do they do that shit before a play or any other performance? It's just propaganda. It's giving Nazi Germany sometimes.
Oh, wow. Okay, you went there. All right.
It's giving Nazi Germany to the point where the shit I'm saying right now, they'll just say it's anti-American and I need to go back to where I came from. First of all, I came from here. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But it gives off Nazi Germany. Like, you must think this way.
I mean, there's definitely a nationalism that kind of comes with the Fourth and the flag and, America the Beautiful. I get all that. I would say also part of America's, appeal to people is that it's a place where different ideals can exist. So for those who, do want to stand for the flag, who do want to do the patriotism, who do, bleed red, white, and blue, that's cool. But there are other Americans who think differently, and you may not like it, but you got to accept it. Simple as that to me.
People are doing less of that these days.
Yeah, people be okay. I stopped caring as much about trying to change people's minds. Yeah, just focus on what you can control.
I don't want to change anybody's mind. My problem is when you start legislating this way.
Okay. I got nothing on that one. As a black person, I've got a very mixed feelings about the whole Independence Day thing. Because to your point, it wasn't for us, so I've never looked at it that way. I looked at it as a free day to get off work and a barbecue.
Yep. So fireworks.
Which listen. If you live around me, stop the fucking fireworks 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. That is irritating. I got little kids. It wakes them up, scares the shit out of them. Stop that. Oh, that irritates the hell out of me. Stop.
On top of that, you're literally burning money.
Yeah. Yes.
Literally burn. This shit's expensive too. This shit's not cheap. You're literally burning money.
I don't know, man. I'm like, bro, come on, man. Like, come on, man. This. I don't want to hear this.
We got to touch on this Britney Griner thing before we get off because I got some good thoughts.
All right, that'll be the last one. We'll wrap this up. For those who don't know, well, everybody knows Britney Griner is, like what's going on right now in Russia. Pled guilty to having the hash oil because Russia's one of the countries that doesn't play when it comes to certain offenses. So, had to plead guilty because she had it. She did say she had no intent to break the law. Not quite sure what that means.
It don't matter when it comes to law.
Yeah, I was just like, it is what it is. So those, Russia is, there is a Russian, I believe, attorney who represents, I honestly don't know the guy's name, the Russian person who's currently incarcerated in America for war crimes known as immersion of death, who is proposing a prisoner exchange. They've tried this a few times. They tried it with the soldier that was in Russia who got released recently, who was there like for a few years. So people are arguing or asking like, hey, if Britney Griner was a male, this would be a bigger issue and people would be trying to do more to get her out. Is Britney Griner a victim of gender bias, or is this just because, frankly, no one knows who she is? Rephrase.
Okay, so
she's not a big enough star. Let me say it a different way. Go for it.
My bad. I know the timing's off.
No, you're good.
The remote, but so the WNBA players have to go overseas to play over there because
they make more money.
WNBA salaries is not enough, right?
Right.
So they have to make the money to go over there.
Yep.
So the idea has been floated around that, and I know they're actually going to do it. Try to make it more level. The salaries are going to go up in the WNBA.
That's good. All right.
And some of the travel accommodations are going to change as well.
Okay.
My issue with that is, I looked at the numbers. The issue I have that is unfair is that the CBA is not the same as it is in the NBA. And then when I say CBA, I mean collective bargaining agreement that the two parties have. The WNBA or WNBPA, and the WNBA. So that's like the players' union and the league.
Yep.
There's not a 50-50 split the way that it is in the men's league. That's problematic. It's more like a 30, 39, 51, 40, 61, whatever, however the math works.
Okay.
It's less than 50-50. That's where it's problematic. Now, the WNBA creates a fraction of the NBA's revenue. So, in my opinion, there's no way to make that level. And if you do make it level, you're revenue sharing, which means that that's not fair. That's just you overcompensating for the fact that they don't make as much money. And because they don't make as much money, because the sport isn't as popular. It's not the same sport. And I know that a lot of people would like to say basketball is basketball. The game is similar, but it's two different sports. It's the way that college basketball is a different sport from the NBA. The way that women's college basketball is a different sport from men's college basketball. It's played differently. Some of the rules are different. The ball size is different. Like some of the parameters around the sport are different. The playing style of the WNBA and the NBA is different. Not less than, but just different. The legacy of the two sports is different. You have more legacy in the NBA, so therefore you have more following in the NBA, therefore you have more revenue in the NBA. There's less of that in the WNBA. How can you say that that WNBA players should be making the same amount of money as an NBA player? Unless you're going to revenue share, it's just not the case.
And when you're referring to revenue share, are you saying that the NBA would share revenue share with the WNBA? Because even if we did that, they wouldn't have to say, okay. Because doesn't the NBA already subsidize the WNBA in some form or fashion, I thought?
Yes.
Okay.
They already do. And a lot of that was to try to promote the WNBA game more.
Okay.
Now, with Britney Griner, if she was LeBron James, this wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be happening. First of all, he would have flew privately, and nobody would have found out what he had in his carry-on.
So, I agree. But let me ask, do you think if Britney Griner does it have to do with her gender, or just that she's just in a sport where her star isn't as bright? Meaning,
it's gender indirectly, but directly just because she's not a star.
But what if it was it's like Serena Williams? Would you think it'd be the same situation going on? Serena Williams is a global star.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was kind of like, I think because Chris Brown mentioned it and people were like, yeah, that's right. I was like, well, is it? I mean, I get it to an extent. I agree with you with the LeBron James comparison. But I was wondering, like, well, if a bigger female, like, star athlete was in a similar situation, would it play out the same way? I don't think it would.
No.
I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong.
It's based off of individual stardom, which is still bad. The person's life is still 100%. Important.
No one wants to sit in the jail cell, whether it be foreign or domestic.
But special accommodations being made, yeah. Because let's talk about what we're talking about. Let's be honest. You want special accommodations made for Britney Griner because of who she is.
True.
Because she's a WNBA star. Because guess what? Any other American caught with hashish oil doing that, we wouldn't be talking about them. A, they'd already be up under the jail. B, they might not be alive. C, especially during war times. You're talking about Britney Griner's being treated this way because of her name, like low key. Like if it wasn't Britney Griner, she'd probably be gone.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't know. It probably would take. You probably may just be hearing about it now. Maybe
China made somebody disappear. She was a star. Made a star disappear because she had adversarial comments about the government. It made her disappear. You don't think Russia's gonna make our nobody disappear? Please.
Well, I think them being American would make it a little bit more complex. But I agree with you. If there was a Russian person get caught up, yeah, you probably gonna hear from Vlad no more.
There'd be some small Netflix documentary about how I lost my cousin.
I don't know if Vlad's a Russian name now that I think about it. But anyway.
Vladimir is pretty Russian to me. Vladimir, I've only ever associated that with Russian. I could be acting very ignorant and
probably
generalizing, but I've never heard Vladimir anything but Eastern European. So, I just don't think it's that. I don't think it's gender directly.
It's
gender indirectly. It's more of the star power. And she's not that big of a star because she plays women's basketball and not men's basketball. And that's kind of based off of merit. That's not based off some type of discrimination. We don't discriminate against the WNBA. It's just not the NBA. It's just not a brand as strong as the NBA's brand. And to be honest, for me personally, I like all types of basketball, but I only follow the NBA because I don't have the bandwidth to follow every fucking sport. If you do, and you're not following the WNBA because you think the basketball is less than, I would call into question how sexist you are. I would call into question of how sexist you are because basketball, for the most part, is basketball. And if you have the bandwidth to follow all these goddamn sports, you should be following that one too.
It's just, I think they are very talented athletes that could, I think they play the same. They have the same issues, not the same, similar issue with athletes in sports that just aren't as popular. Not that it's not a talent factor. Not that you aren't gifted athletes and maybe great people. Just people just don't care. I mean, there's like world champion wrestlers like who do amateur, like the Olympic style wrestling. Unless you're into that shit, you don't know who they are. You don't care.
You don't care.
Yeah, you don't give a shit.
Are they being discriminated against?
In some form of fashion, maybe. I don't know.
No.
Maybe. No. If I don't know, if it was like the dude who just won, like, I don't know, let's say it's NCAA wrestling champion who was in that same situation. No one's gonna give a shit. No one's gonna.
No one is. But it's not discrimination. It's just that they don't have the eyes on you. You just don't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do you think this is? I know we're random question. Wrap it up with this one. At least for me. if the WNBA took a playing style, that was similar to like a, let's say like how Steph Curry plays, like a different, like he plays a different style than what people thought would be how you could dominate in basketball. If the WNBA had more of that kind of style of play across the league, do you think that would raise the popularity? Meaning it was more like, their skill was just so unreal at whatever the different things they were doing, people would appreciate what they're watching more. And I look at it as like a watered down version of the NBA.
Well, okay.
I know that's like you're like, wait a minute, what does that really mean? But I'm trying to think of like
right. I don't think people view the WNBA as a watered down version of the NBA.
You don't? What do you think they view it as? Because one of the common jokes for people not like you who are like really into like the sport, casual fans are like, oh, they're not dunking, they're not doing this, they aren't physical.
They're not as athletic because it's the same distinction between college basketball and the NBA. It's not as exciting because I don't see the top 1% every time that they play. I'm seeing some of that 10%, of that lower percentile.
Okay. And you helped me get to a better question. And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, sorry, I was using Steph Curry because he's not athletic, but it's more of like a very like high skill you're seeing. Where he's not as reliant. Granted, he has quickness and other stuff, but he's not as reliant on his like athletic abilities to do like the things that have made him like a famous.
WNBA is already that.
Is it though?
Yes.
I don't see it. The highlights, I don't see these. Don't get me wrong, there are very talented players across that league, but that same sort of like sort of like stopping your tracks kind of like skill, you're like, holy shit. I don't normally see that when I'm watching the highlights of those games. It's just like good basketball.
It's athleticism. You're only missing athleticism. You're not missing skill level. I do see some loose dribbling. With the WNBA.
I'm not saying loose skills. I'm trying to think of a different way to put it. I'm
saying the skill level has to be. Yes, because it's what you're leaning on. Because you can't lean. There's athleticism in the WNBA. I don't want to see.
Of course, they're athletes. Yeah.
There isn't that disparity from player to player.
Okay.
So you have to use your skills to be able to make that distinction. Somebody like Candace Parker is way more skilled than the average WNBA player.
Right.
The average one, or the one that's trying to make the team, the skill is night and day. The skill is almost. No. I'm not going to say almost. The skill level is equal to the NBA. She's going to make the same. She's going to make those fall away jumpers. She's got a post game. She's got an up and under. Okay. She's got what else you need? She's got a drop step. She's got a face-up game. She does all those things. She's just not dunking on them. Like, when she shakes you loose, she's not jumping over the dude and dunking on him. So that's what you're missing. You don't have Ja Morant and Zion Williamson in the WNBA.
Ja Morant is crazy to watch him play. Like,
crazy.
How is he doing this? How is he doing this?
Like a whole basketball body. He jumps over them.
It's like fucking superhero. But yeah.
And that's what the NBA has that you can't get anywhere else. You don't understand the difference. You can take your 6'2" foot friend that you think plays really, really well and put him against an NBA player, like my girlfriend. We were looking at Hustle with Adam Sandler. It's one of the movies.
I like that movie, yeah.
And we were talking about like street ballers and why people aren't more enamored by street ball. It's because when you take a street baller and put him in the NBA, it's like a fucking fish out of water.
Hey, man, Skip to My Lou had a decent career.
And they told him to stop that Skip to My Lou shit and play like Ray Froston. You have to bring the ball up.
Yeah, true.
You have to look up when you're bringing the ball up. You have to call the play. You have to look at screeners. You have to look at cutters. Like, you understand. You have to understand the sport to understand that you're getting something different from A to B and from B to C. There's a lot of athleticism out on the street ball corners, but the fundamentals are so fun. These people play basketball every day. They run drills every day with somebody holding their left hand so they can dribble with their right, or vice versa. They're doing these drills every day. WNBA players are doing the same types of drills. The difference is you're not going to get your Ja Morant jumping over a whole body.
So you're saying
That's the whole thing.
It's just
That's the
biology.
thing. It's just biology.
Okay.
It's the only thing. And biology is actually catching up. If you look at some of the studies, women are getting more athletic at a rate, and men are slowing down as far as athleticism.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
And that's just genetics. The more you have women playing high stakes basketball in the U.S., instead of having to go overseas to do it and have basketball academies here and training other women and getting more of that, you're gonna develop better basketball players genetically too. I saw in the NBA draft, I saw a lot of NBA players that got drafted have mothers who either played basketball in WNBA or they coach in the NBA. A lot of them. They play college basketball and they're creating these more athletic kids. A lot of the baseball players these days, there's a lot of juniors in baseball. The juniors are just as good as their dads or better. Donovan Mitchell, like you got Patrick Mahomes' father was a baseball player. So a lot of these athletes are having kids. Ben Simmons' dad was a basketball player. A lot of these athletes are having kids and creating better athletes. Women too. Little girls are becoming better athletes. They're growing up through these AAU systems like the men do. You're creating a system like soccer. Soccer here in America. The more we have these academies, the more you create a system where soccer dad X who plays soccer with soccer wife, they get together, have a soccer kid. They're going to be better soccer players. This is genetics. This is how the game rolls. But this is America. We only do soccer like that. We do pro football, baby. What's up?
Okay. I still think you should be a coach, man. Anyway. But no, man.
These are just ideas.
I'm not going to argue with you on the sports. You know way more sports than me. So I'm not going to do that. Interesting, though. All right. But on that note, anything you want to get to the people?
Get the people. Oh shit! What I got? Nobody. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. We talk about rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing, I've always said this: nobody should be governing what somebody else does with their own body. And I'm very extreme about that, all the way to drugs. I think that all drugs should be legal. Drugs have we've got the war on drugs. You know why we got war on drugs? Where did the war on drugs come from? Al, you know what president instituted the war on drugs, don't you?
Was that, I don't know, was that Nixon? I honestly don't remember.
It was Nixon. Nixon did that shit. I believe Nixon did that shit in the early 70s, right? This was after the wrapping up of the 60s civil... Huh?
Was that Nixon or Reagan? Sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry for thinking out loud.
No. Reagan empowered it, kind of recharged it. Nixon started it.
Okay.
He started it off the back of the civil rights movement. People don't know this, or it's kind of a conspiracy theory. I don't know how much you subscribe to it, but I think it's very much real. After we've had the assassinations of Martin Luther King, Kennedy, both Kennedys, Malcolm X, all in the 60s. I believe Marcus Garvey was killed in the 60s too, right?
No, Garvey. I thought he was. I honestly don't remember.
Okay. I think he was either imprisoned or...
I don't think he was killed in the 60s.
Yeah, he wasn't. Okay. Doesn't matter. There was a movement by Mr. Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover, to get all this shit off the map because it was a conservative issue to get rid of the problem makers in this country. Ever since then, it's been war on drugs. And to me, war on drugs is just a way to put brown and black people in jail off the backs of the civil rights movement. We got too much. And now we're kind of going through the same thing now. I would just tell everybody to go out there and vote in what you believe in, vote your constituency. Make sure that you are supportive of your fellow man and fellow woman. And keep getting them checks.
All right. So I'll say run your own race. Try to do what you can to not be an asshole to people. If you have a knee-jerk reaction to something, try to figure out why. Just live your life. And like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening.
Man,